Hello and welcome to the program. Since 2014, Ukraine has embarked on an ambitious reform program aiming to stabilize its economy and to improve the livelihoods of its citizens. Since then, the EU has given more than 15 billion euros in grants and loans to support the reform process in Ukraine, with strong conditionality on continued progress. On July 21st, Ukrainians chose their new parliament. According to the preliminary results, they want to see 5 parties in the Verkhovna Rada. Most of these parties stand on the pro-Western platform, promising long-awaited reforms to boost the economy and tackle corruption. To discuss it, we're joined in the studio today by Ivan Us, the Chief Consultant in the Department of Foreign Economic Policy at the National Institute for Strategic Studies. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Hello.
So first question, to start with our viewers would like to understand, I think that what is the current state of Ukraine's economy after the parliamentary election right now? Would you say that the hryvnia is stable or not?
Yeah, so actually the first parameter that we see in our streets is the exchange rate. And we see that the national currency hryvnia demonstrate very good result because it becomes stronger, and we can analyze what influence on that. There are a lot of parameters. I think one of the main parameters that really influenced for this result is the fact that Ukraine traditionally is a country that has a serious level of dependence of energy sources. Now Ukraine, at least before previous months, always have the problem with receiving the sources. I mean, first of all, crude oil, and everyone understands that the price will be higher as we see that this is dependence, first of all, from Russia. But 2 months ago, approximately, the first tanker with crude oil from the United States of America came to Odessa port. That was something like a sign that Ukraine has not such a large dependence. And that, of course, give a positive sign to economy as one of the main negative factor of our energy dependence of Russia start not to be such an important as we diversified. And of course, it played in favor of our economy, and the economy stabilized. That's why we see these positive results in the prices for fuel a little bit decrease, and first of all the exchange rate. So, and that was a good background for political parties, first of all for previous power, but it's not played the main role. And ironically, it's not helped as some other positive steps that had been made before.
Now, to come back to the outcomes of the elections, let's focus a little bit on the programs of different parties here. So we have 5 parties, right? 7 of the People, Opposition Platform for Life, European Solidarity, Batьківщина, and Holos. How progressive are these parties if we're talking about boosting Ukraine's economy and fighting corruption?
So actually, yes, we have 5 parties, but 2 of the parties are new parties, actually. And as of now, at least first days, first week even after elections, and probably before the start of the work of the new parliament, it's very hard to say what the main party, the Priest of People, headed by actually the president, Mr. Zelensky, what is the economical ideas, what is the background. Because if we look to all parties, 5 parties that appeared in the parliament, and some parties that failed to do, it's very interesting moment that, for example, if we are talking about economy, one of the parties that associated with the protectionism policy of Ukraine, it was Lashko party, a radical party of Ukraine, because they always lobbied a lot of laws that negatively influence on our cooperation with the European Union. We remember questions with timber and other questions that create the problems in the dialogue. And they always create a law about support of Ukrainian manufacturers that are a little bit violated. First of all, WTO rules, but the rules of our association, our obligation of association agreement. And this party that was synonym of protectionism, they failed.
Yeah, they didn't reach the threshold.
Yes, they didn't reach this barrier. That's why we can say that the ideas of protectionism are not so popular. But on the other hand, if we looked to these 5 parties, as I told them in the new one, and now it's hard to analyze their ideas. They're like paper list without any signatures, and we don't know whether it's will be free market economy oriented or protectionist oriented. Now it's hard to say. As for the other three political parties, it's so serious difference between them. As if I look to the second party in this election, so the oppositional Bloc for Life, headed by Mr. Medvedchuk, Boyko, and Rabinovich, this party actually made a stake on the relationship with Russia and on returning normal economic cooperation and so on and so forth. So that vector of Ukrainian economy should be developing relationship with Russia like everything okay.
Like nothing ever happened in between. Yes.
Actually, that was the idea, and this idea didn't change, and we see that if we compare the previous parliament and the current parliament, they even increased it, but on to three deputies, actually. Not a big actually increase, nevertheless, formally, at least they preserved that share. As for two other parties, which have practically the same result, actually,
So Verkhovna and
European strategies. As for European strategy, even from the beginning, I mean from the title of this party, European strategy mean yes at Ukrainian, EU if we talk the English language. So it means that they demonstrated the necessity of cooperation with European Union, that association should work, and of course that we should live according to association agreement and according to obligations. If we look to the other party, I mean the Batькivщина party, situation a little bit differ. As Tymoshenko party, on the one hand, they supported the European level of development of Ukraine, so they're pro-Western party, according to their slogans. On the other hand, if we look to the economical statement, situation not so clear, because they against selling the land. It's one of their main priority. The question that creates controversy with European Union actually, and that can lead even to problems. They, as for me, so not so large protectionist as radical party, but as for me, they support protectionism ideas. That's why, for me, this party is not at 100% pro-European. At least they can say that they're pro-European, but their deeds are
on paper, basically.
Yes, on paper they are pro-European. Actually, they are not pro-European.
So you're saying that's a contradiction in the Batькivщина, like inside the Batькivщina party here?
Their statement, even if you look to the statement after the elections, was several statements that we should not depend on IMF and so on and so forth, with some criticism. I agree that we should not depend on IMF, but we should cooperate with IMF. Actually, IMF helped to many countries, and the countries that failed, rather I think they should search problem inside, but not in the IMF as it is. And actually, when we're talking about IMF, first of all, we should understand that it's cooperation with the main countries in the world, with the United States of America and so on and so forth. So if we want to be in the global world,
you have to comply with the IMF.
If you want to
process.
Be against it, like some countries demonstrate their negative attitude, so you could be in this camp. But the history shows that the Western camp is winning. Now,
to come back to Volodymyr Zelensky's party, it's quite interesting that even while campaigning and just after his election, he went to meet with Emmanuel Macron. He went to meet with Angela Merkel. Would you say, even though, as you said, that his party, his politics is not clear yet, would you say it's kind of putting itself under the liberal liberal market here?
Yeah, so Mr. Zelensky in many of his statements say that he supports liberal values, and libertarianism probably it's part of the ideology. The other question is that now it's just words of some representatives, because the main problem of those newcomers, let's call those parties, because actually Ukrainian parliament refreshed seriously. Several days ago, or immediately after election, we received some research according to which the average age of the deputies will be at 7.5 years lower than the previous one. So they become younger, and younger not at a year or two, but at 7 years younger. It's a lot of young people without a lot of knowledge. And those people try to learn yes, we understand that it's better to receive the prepared deputies before, but reality of Ukrainian political life that we receive that guys. And as for me, they rather try to search in their statements reaction of society. And that's why the value of society increased, because those newcomers who actually become the ruling party and who received 254 as of now, of course we should wait for the final results, because everything could change in every moment, but more than 250, let's say it so, so they could create a majority without any other party. So and they appoint a government, but on the other hand, we see that they try to understand what of their statement received support from the society and how society react on their statement, because they don't, as for me, as of now, they don't know what to do.
Would you say it's a good thing or a bad thing that it depends so much on society? Because on one hand, of course, they're more connected with society and can mostly understand the expectation of society, but on the other hand, maybe it could create some, let's say, deputies who are willing to please at any cost.
Yes, as for me, it's a rather positive moment. It's really, it increased role of society, because in the other hand, we can imagine parties that came to power, said, we know what to do, we don't need the society, you vote for us, goodbye, in 5 years we return to you. Now we see that these new people who came, they want to have this dialogue at least. One of the problem of some previous powers that they said that we choose our way and we don't care what you are talking. Now we see the other position, at least at the first steps. What will be in a year or two, now it's hard to say, but at least as of the starting period, we see at least attempt of this dialogue and a request for this dialogue from the ruling party. And it's very good. At least society played some role, even without position in the parliament. But when they're interested by your opinion, I think it's cool.
Now, the idea that Zelensky evoked of having a prime minister who's not a politician but an economist, what's your stance on that?
So, of course, it's a good idea because, first of all, it signed our investors that Ukraine will make more probably steps in the economical development. The other moment that it should be connected with other actual deeds of our whole state as a system, because the saying that we would pay more attention on the economy on the one hand, but making some serious check of the main companies of the country, it's a horse of another color, let's be frank. Because it's negatively influenced on image, and in that connection, of course, I will be glad if the new government will be more economically oriented, but not protectionists. Because protectionists are economists, but economics should be oriented on, first of all, the association agreement and step by step moving to the European Union, and all achievements in that way that was received by their predecessors, they will be preserved, and the president and the ruling party will not change this way, because now one of the main fear that this way of the country that we see starting from actually formally 2014, but let's be frank, even under Yanukovych reigning, all time we move into Europe. Only after his decision not to say it was the end of 2013, there was some pause, but it was short period due to Maidan, because society at that time shows that they want to go to Europe, and they wish that society preserves this idea, because in other hand will be resuming of USSR.
Now would you say that Ukrainian market, Ukrainian society is indeed seems to be ready, but that the Ukrainian market is ready to get fully into a total free trade agreement with Europe, because there's a problem of quotas, of overproduction. So how is Ukraine ready for that kind of
Of course, Ukrainian economy is not absolutely ready. But on the other hand, as I said, step by step, we see some achievements. For example, a week ago, I visited Spain, and one of the main shop of Barcelona city, one of the main Spanish cities, I saw Ukrainian youths that was made in Ukraine, and that is a sign that at least Ukraine, not absolutely, but integrated to the European economy.
And begins to export manufactured
we see
goods.
Imagine, we see our things in Spain. I think that we can find some other things in other countries, because traditionally a lot of people try to say that Ukraine selling to Europe only cereals, only steel, and that's all. But we see suits, we know that our honey very popular, and of course some spare parts for cars that Ukraine купує, first of all, for cars, for more than 1 billion euro per year, actually, Ukraine exported. That's why it's demonstration of our, I agree, not absolutely, but integration. That's why Ukraine, of course, immediately we will not be ready, but no one said to us that you today or in a week or in a year or within 5 years could be in the European Union. For example, Poland signed the association agreement 12 years before it joining, yes, after end of Soviet split of the USSR. Whether Ukraine needed 12 years, I'm not sure, but we should be ready for such a long term. Nevertheless, it's first of all, it depends on us whether we prepared our economy, because as a lot of people said, Euro integration is not a global process. Euro integration is a local process oriented on our preparations, that we should change ourselves, we should prepare for the requirements of EU, we should understand what they need for us, and we should be ready to do that.
And then we will closely follow this evolution. Thank you very much for shedding light on the economic issues in Ukraine. That was Ivan Us, Chief Consultant Department of Foreign Economic Policy at the National Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.